Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Reinvent and Rediscover, the podcast for anyone in the in between. I'm your host, Ava Laurie, and each week we'll be diving into honest conversations about growth, identity, purpose, and all of the messy, beautiful transitions in between. I'm happy you're joining us today, and let's begin. This week, I want to talk about cringe culture. I feel like it's kind of on the rise with my generation, at least. And I want to dive into kind of where it stems from, the problem with cringe culture, and how to kind of come out on the other side and really tap into your authenticity without fear of judgment from others. This is really going to speak to those who are hesitant to live out their truth due to the fear of judgment. I think a lot of us have struggled with fear of judgment for a lot of different reasons, and it can hinder tapping into your greatest potential. And I want to help you tap into your potential and kind of release that fear, release that hindrance that you are feeling. The fear of being perceived is keeping us small. So we'll unpack how this fear steals our potential and how to reclaim your authenticity. So let's get into this together. So cringe culture is a world where being different will get you mocked or made fun of. So in turn, because we as a society have created this culture, we kind of mask ourselves and we mask our truth. We mask what makes us unique and interesting in order to kind of fit in and live life in a more unscathed manner and less likely to be an outcast. Somehow we've gotten. What was that? Is someone FaceTiming me? That's weird. I've never heard that sound come from my phone before. Um, we kind of suppress ourselves to fit into society so that things seem easier. But in reality, we want to reveal our truth selves. We want to be more creative. We want to stand out. We want to make a difference. Oh, my mom is calling me. I'll be back. Okay, I had to make a little break talking to my mom. Had some updates for her. I hope this didn't mess up the recording. I'm not actually sure, but let's get into it further. So, I talked about cringe culture, where we have kind of created a world where being different gets you mocked. And especially with the height of social media, everything has the ability to be recorded, go viral. Strangers on the internet, interactions with strangers or people in public have gone viral for doing seemingly embarrassing things. But at the end of the day, we're all human, so is what it is. Um, Due to social media and that like virality aspect, and the potential for anytime you going out in public having the ability to be put on social media or be recorded for anything that you do has created this like hyper vigilance, hyper awareness for every little thing that we do, how we act, how we smile. And I've heard a lot about the Gen Z stare being talked about as well. And I think we've kind of put ourselves in a little bit of a freeze state. Even just ordering food, just or going to a coffee shop and being scared of saying the wrong thing, or those social interactions that have gotten scarier, I think, for our generation, a little bit due to the isolation period during the pandemic, but also just the rise of social media and our fear of being perceived. This has created a spotlight effect. There's been a lot of research studies done on the spotlight effect and kind of this whole idea of cringe culture. Um, and the spotlight effect is how we often feel like we're constantly on a spotlight due to the rise of social media, and we end up overestimating how much people are actually paying attention to us. We think about that a lot, and I can tell this whenever I visit home. I have a younger sister, and seeing how fearful she is sometimes that people are paying attention to her or watching her all the time. And my parents always respond like, oh, nobody cares, like, blow it off. Nobody's paying attention to you. And you can definitely see that age gap being heightened by our fear of embarrassment and perception versus my parents who didn't grow up on social media. They don't care what people think of them. They don't care how they look in public or how they act in public because at the end of the day, like, they don't fear being blasted on social media for something, or they don't feel like people are constantly watching them in the way that Gen Z feels like we always have a spotlight on us. In reality, most people are minding their business 90% of the time. And the 10% that does get put on social media is like, let's talk about how to just avoid the fear of that 10% of the time. Um, there's a couple different things I was reading about in my research, like adolescent egocentrism, where young people believe everyone is constantly watching, um, which is fueling that self-consciousness. That self-consciousness that we feel like people are always watching is, I think, directly related to the obsession of our appearance. And that goes all the way down to, you know, the rise of plastic surgery, enhancements of any kind, Botox. And I'm not speaking badly of any of those things. That's your business. If you choose to enhance your natural features, that's your business. It's really not mine. But I will say that increase in aesthetics, all the way down to gym and Pilates being seen now as, the trending body to have is like the Pilates body or whatever. Like, our bodies are going in and out of trends, and the way we look, our appearances are going in and out of trends. And this kind of imaginary audience is kind of infiltrating and in turn influencing the things that we do, the things we say, and how we act. I feel like public shaming has become more of a widespread issue, because now we have a very accessible way to publicly shame other people as a way of controlling and governing other people so that we all kind of end up being a cookie cutter version of ourselves. And I think that deep down comes from insecurity. A lot of motivators for the way people act that are negative is a form of projection. It's a form of insecurity. And the most confident people in the world are not publicly shaming other people. They're not mocking other people. They're not, pushing that cringe culture. They're just existing. So to kind of reframe this, I have a couple things that I wrote down. For one, other people's perceptions of you aren't your business. If you're on, let me re-say that. Other people's perceptions of you aren't your business if you're happy with who you are. If you are happy with who you are, then other people's perception of you is not your business. Because at the end of the day, if you are confident and happy, it does not matter who's looking at you, rolling their eyes at you, or having silent judgment towards you. Let them. Like Mel Robbins says, let them, okay? Let them be in their little miserable mind of judgment, okay? But don't succumb to that. And making yourself smaller is not the answer to your fear. We like to shrink when we feel like we are being judged. But shrinking yourself is only pushing that fear further in your mind. Make yourself bigger. And when you make yourself bigger and allow yourself to take up space and allow yourself to be authentically you, you come across more confident, and that's a repellent for judgment. Confidence is a repellent for judgment, okay? Like, get away with me. Get away from me with any judgment, because I'm confident in who I am, so you can't touch me. That's the type of energy you need to have when you're going out in public and just existing as you are. Be fearlessly yourself. You know what I mean? Another thing I was thinking about is how cringe culture has kind of poisoned dating and dating apps specifically. There has been so many profiles on Hinge or whatever other dating apps I've seen, either people like posting about them on TikTok, or just that I've personally come across that's like, oh, this is a joke, haha, like my friend told me to make this. Same thing when TikTok was starting and people like had in their bios, or they would say like, oh, this TikTok's a joke, by the way. Because when they would joke about it, it was a repellent for judgment. It was like, oh no, I'm already joking on myself. I'm not going to take this seriously, so if you don't take it seriously either, it's okay, we're on a mutual agreement. But it's actually okay to have a dating app and want to find a significant other and be authentically yourself. That is okay. It's human to want to connect with others, to want to date someone, to want to have a partner. That's like a human necessity, is connection and romance. So it's not embarrassing. I think we've made it embarrassing because as a society, and specifically Gen Z, is so fearful of connection and vulnerability that we put up jokes in order to avoid vulnerability. So, you listeners, where do you think you holds back because of judgment? Is it at work, in a class, in conversations, on dating apps? Where are you holding yourself back in order to avoid judgment? Think about that, because I have held myself back, or I did for years, in fear of judgment. I've always been a creative. I've always been a writer. I've always been someone who loves to talk. When I was younger, I had a YouTube for a little while. And I really enjoyed posting on YouTube. And I really enjoyed writing for a while. When I first wrote and published my first poetry book, I remember getting a call from like my first boyfriend's friends, and they were all like mocking me and laughing at me. And I kind of took it to heart because I had finally overcome that fear of judgment in putting my truth out into the world. And I felt like, oh, now I'm getting mocked. But the further when I kept going and I kept writing, and I've written 3 more books, published 2 of the 3 so far. Now people can't even mock me because I kept going. I kept running with the confidence. I let it roll off my back, and I still show up authentically me and create and put out into the universe because I don't care. When I first started my podcast, I was a little shy with kind of like marketing it, or, you know, posting on Instagram, like, listen to my podcast. I was a little nervous to have friends or people that I know, acquaintances, seeing my podcast out of fear of judgment. Like, what would they say? What would they think? It's not my problem what they're going to say or think about what I'm doing, because I'm convicted in what I'm saying. I'm convicted in this material, this podcast of mine. And the fact that I pushed through that fear and kept going for a year and a half, the podcast is still here. Whether or not you like it, I'm still showing up every Thursday, and I'm providing content that will eventually reach an audience that will resonate with it. Okay? So keep showing up and keep facing that fear every single time. Um, yeah, so as I was talking about, a lot of people are kind of nervous about doing the wrong thing or fear of not looking like the other people in the space you are. And truly, the only way to overcome that is just to face the fear head on. For a long time, I resisted going to different workout classes like hot yoga or Pilates because I was always someone who was in the gym lifting weights. And after I stopped lifting weights, I got into running and kind of cycling at the gym, doing more cardio based activities, and then a little bit of weight training. So I was very comfortable in the gym. Showing up at Pilates made me so nervous because in my head, I was not like the demographic of those who attend Pilates classes. In my head, I already singled myself out and I thought I would get mocked for having a different body than they have or looking a different way that they're not used to. But I showed up to my Pilates class and nothing happened. It was fine. Of course, you know, I didn't know what I was doing as much as other people, or messed up some things, or, couldn't hold a pose. Same thing with hot yoga. There was a lot of poses I could not hold. Um, Nobody was looking at me. Nobody laughed at me. Nobody rolled their eyes at me. Nobody paid me any mind because if they're paying me mind, if they're paying attention to me messing up, then they're not paying enough attention to themselves in a workout class. Like, you're here to work on yourself, pay more attention to yourself. You know what I mean? It's in your head. That spotlight is in your head. Um, these fears of perception and being mocked, they are universal. You're not alone. Um, this isn't an anxiety or a fear that just you hold. So find comfort in the fact that most of us, as far as Gen Z and, you know, our space of the world, our little corner of the world, we all share this fear. So we need to overcome it together. And the funny part about this whole situation is that I feel like Gen Z is so inclusive and accepting. We have broken big barriers when it comes to acceptance of all people and inclusion. So that's kind of an interesting, you know, juxtaposition. It's like we are so inclusive and accepting, and on the same side, we created this cringe culture. Um, Kind of interesting because we know in our hearts that we are a loving generation, to generalize Gen Z. Um, so don't be so scared of of each other. Like, we're all kind of dealing with this together. We're all going through this fear together. Most people probably feel the same way. So here's four or three key takeaways that I want you to take from what I'm saying in this episode specifically. One, your fear of judgment can often come from a lack of confidence in a skill or a setting. And I talked about this, I think, 2 episodes ago. I said that um, most insecurities come from your, what did I, now I can't remember what I said. Doesn't matter. I think I said most insecurities can be solved from trying harder. But what I really meant by that, to not sound so snotty, as someone said, is that if you lack confidence in something and that's what's pushing your fear of judgment, then the only way to fix that confidence is to keep practicing and showing up for yourself and keep doing it. Because the harder you try, the more you're building your confidence. That's like the famous saying, every expert was once a beginner. Um, any famous athlete started from scratch, okay? And the reason they have this overwhelming confidence is because they have built the skill and they have built the consistency to stand up for their confidence. And at some point, they probably stopped fearing judgment of other people because now they have this track record of their improvement and their relentless consistency and promise to showing up for themselves to get better. Number two is holding yourself back is actually blocking your own growth. So making yourself smaller is not the answer to cringe culture. The more you kind of submit to it and suppress yourself, you are killing your own growth and you're not going to be able to reach your fullest potential and the things that you are capable of. Anytime I feel most myself and proud of myself is when I've broken that barrier and taken a big risk on myself and followed through with it. And number three is your cringe is actually just your authenticity. So the things that make you unique, the things that make you interesting, your inner truths, all are seemingly cringe at first. I feel like we've kind of created this term within Gen Z is cringe. I feel like the older generations never said, oh, that's so cringy, that's so cringe, as much as we do. So if you think it's cringy to start a podcast, have a TikTok channel, publish your own book, do whatever it is that's standing out. If you think it's cringy, lean into it a little further because it's probably because it's exposing your vulnerability and it's exposing your truth. So just keep leaning into it because there's something so magnificent that you are beginning to tap into, and it feels uncomfortable because it's a true and real part of yourself that you need to lean further into. I promise you, there are great things on the other side of discomfort, but you have to lean into it and take a chance on yourself. So here's 3 ways I have on how to push through the fear of judgment. For one, exposure therapy. That's what I've been saying, is just to continue to put yourself in uncomfortable situations on purpose. That's the discomfort that you're feeling, that turmoil within you is, ooh, this is uncomfortable. I've never been to a Pilates class. I'm nervous. I'm, feeling like I want to continue rejecting going because I'm scared to go. But if you continue to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and try new things, eventually it will not be so scary anymore. You'll get used to it. You'll start to feel more confident, and I promise it'll all be okay. With that being said, repetition builds confidence. The more you do it, the less cringe it feels. And a mantra that I have for you, and I said this earlier, is that other people's perceptions are none of my business. Okay? Say it again. Other people's perceptions are none of my business. Because also, a lot of it is created in your head, like how you think they are perceiving you. Because most of the time, they're perceiving you whether or not you like it, and they're not going to tell you how they are perceiving you. You are making up what you think they are perceiving you as due to your insecurity. What is really happening is that you are exposing your own areas of insecurity when you are thinking how they are perceiving you. It's projection, babe. It's projection. If you are going into spaces where you are confident and in your mind, you think, oh, these people are perceiving me well. They think I'm well poised. They think I'm well spoken. They think I'm cool. They think I'm strong. They think I know what I'm doing. If you kind of have that positive view of other people around you, that's just showing that you are actually really confident, and your brain does not know the difference between, these thoughts and reality. So if you keep telling yourself these thoughts and shaping your reality, then it's going to just bounce. The energy is just going to bounce off each other. And it's just going to keep getting better. And it's going to manifest into physicality, your thoughts. So keep just thinking positive things and infiltrating that confidence, even if you have to fake it to a certain level. But other people's perceptions are none of my business, okay? Point blank, period. They're none of my business. Okay, so that's that. But I just want to reassure you once again that everyone feels this fear. You're not alone in that, but pushing through the fear changes everything. And the potential you have to be so in tune with yourself and attract the people in your life that you want to attract, and attract your dream job, and attract the dream car or the dream situation, whatever it is in your life that you actually dream of, can only be tapped into when you embrace your authentic and true self. But if you keep making yourself small out of the fear of judgment, it's going to be really hard to attract what you want, because you attract what you put out. So if you keep putting out a small version of yourself, you're going to get back things that don't align with yourself, and you're going to wonder why your friendships feel shallow. You're not connecting with people romantically. You don't really like your job or align with it. All that resistance you feel based on what you are attracting is because you are still resisting your inner truth and you're not allowing yourself to shine. So it's coming back into your life in the same way of what you are putting out. So think about that. Like, it's okay to be alone for a little while you're building your confidence in order to attract what truly aligns with you. And that's kind of the phase of life I'm entering in. Is I'm built the confidence. I feel confident and I feel like I've really established a strong sense of self. And now I'm going to be able to attract friendships or romance or a job that better aligns with me. And I'm really excited for this chapter of my life, to be honest. And I wish the same for you. But just keep leaning into that discomfort and that little twinge of, oh my gosh, like, should I really do this? Like, that resistance you feel, lean further into it, okay? If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who you think might be holding themselves back. And if you are new here, welcome. Thank you for listening to Reinvent and Rediscover. This podcast is all about navigating growth, self-discovery, and the messy in between. That's the episode. And until next time, live passionately. Bye.